Bags. I hope you're having a really good day. So today we are actually going to make a purse organizer. And the whole point of this is it's got several pockets for you to put your things in that you would put in your purse or bag or tote, whatever. But when it comes time to change out your purses, you want to go out for the evening and change bags, you could just pull this out, put it in, and basically everything is all inclusive in this, okay? So, but the thing is, you need to make different sizes, especially if you're going to sell it or you have a couple different size purses like I do. I have several bags, as you can imagine, and even this taller one doesn't fit in my shorter bag, so I have a few of these made so that I can just really enjoy them in that way, okay? So if you're making one for yourself, you've got a little bit of designing that you can play around with. You can make less pockets, more pockets, a little bit taller pockets, things like that. If you're going to sell them, you might want to stick to the design that I'm going to give you today. Okay, so I'm going to gather my things and we'll get started. Okay, for this project, I want to show you what I made just a little while ago. I make so many of these to sell, and this is just the one that I use the most, this size. So what I did was I cut out some cardboard for the main part of the body, which I'm going to show you and give you the measurements to, and another piece of cardboard the same size that I use for the pockets. Okay, so this is the same size as one pocket. It just makes it really easy when I have time to just cut out multiple pieces of fabric. So what I did was I made these templates, and they're really nice because you can set them down on your fabric and use your rotary cutter and just cut around them. Makes it really easy. Also, when my blades start to get dull on these, I take them out and I put them in the same case that they came in, and I write on the cover of the case that it is used. And that is how I cut out my cardboard. Boy, does it do a great job. Even if this is dull, it just cuts right through it. Okay, so there you go. You know me and my templates. I just absolutely love them. But this part, and then I wrote on the front the size. It says medium size organizer, and I put the measurements down. I do let myself know, of course, it's the main part of the body, okay? Times 4, because you have your outside pieces, you have your inside pieces. I even wrote down that these parts are heavily interfaced. Then I wrote down the finished size. Okay, so I'll tell you what, when you do multiple of these, or even if you think you're going to make a couple in the future, this only took a minute to make. Okay, so it's really great. And then the other one is for the pockets. Again, it says medium organizer, and it gives me the measurements of the pockets, and then it tells me that I use a light interfacing for that. Okay, so I'm going to give you the measurements of these. Okay, so for the outside focal, okay, and the inside main body of them, I'm going to give you the measurements of the main body, okay? So these are 12 inches wide. Your focal fabric is 12 inches wide by 9 inches down. You need 2 of those, and they need to be heavily interfaced, okay? They just need to have like a Pellin 808 or something heavy so that it helps it to stand on its own, okay? It needs to be strong. It's going to hold your pockets and the things in it. You don't want the whole thing folding over. I don't think you do. I don't. I want mine to stand, really nice. Okay, so this again is 12 inches by 9. You're going to need the same for your lining, okay? 12 inches by 9. You're going to need 2. Those need to be heavily interfaced. And you need pockets for the inside and the outside. So both of these measure, I know they're 12 inches wide, 12 inches wide by 10. So that when I make I fold these over, we're gonna make our pocket for the outside of the bag. You guys are not gonna believe how easy this is to make. Organizers are actually very, very easy. Okay, so it's gonna sit just like that. And then what I did was I also cut out, I think I even wrote this down on here, yeah, the little tabs, because you want to be able to pull it up out of your bag, or you could even put them in the middle, like this one, okay, so that you can pull it out that way. So I made one of them, little tabs, and what I did was they're 3 inches wide by 4, and I folded them very much like a strap. Okay, so everybody pretty much knows how to make a strap. If not, follow one of my other videos and you will see how this is put together. Okay, very, very simple. And then I just folded it like this, sewed it across here, and you have a little loopy part there. Okay, and we're going to do that again. So if you missed that this time around, that's really okay. So I'm going to take these over and interface them. I did not do that yet, and then we'll put it together. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is apply our pockets to all 4. Okay, I interfaced all 4, and they are ready to go. So here's my main focal fabric, and this one, of course, is lightly interfaced. So you want to fold it in half. Make sure you have it folded in half going the right way. You want this to be the long end, and I am just going to use a 1/4 inch stitch along the top here. Tell the sound of my new sewing machine is a lot louder. It's a heavy duty machine, so I can sew with leather and much thicker. So I'm trying to get used to it. Okay, so after you do that, you basically made a tube, and you're just going to pull that inside out. Okay, you're going to take it over to the ironing board. You can iron it like this, just straight across on the crease. Or, as you know, I always like to bring mine down a little bit. I think it adds a little decorative touch to it. So I'm going to take this over to the iron right now and press that. I am going to do the same with the next piece, the exact same. I'm also going to do this with my lining pieces. They're all made exactly the same. And when I come back, what we're going to do is I'm going to show you where to attach them onto your main fabric, okay? Okay, so I did get my pockets made, all 4 of them. And what I want you to do now, and I will explain exactly what we're going to do with it later, but what I want you to do now is take your 4 focal pieces and put them somewhere on your mat like this. And I want you to come down 1 inch from the top. I'm using my little guide here. And I want you to draw a very straight line. This will make sense later. I'm not going to explain it now, but this is a really good time to do that. So remember though, that's going to be your top. You don't want to put your pocket down there. Okay, so go ahead and do that with all 4. And then I will show you exactly where to put your pockets, okay? This is really an important part. You're gonna like the reason why we are doing that, so I'll be right back. Okay, so I got all of my lines drawn, so just make sure that you remember these are the tops. And, you know, it's not a secret or anything, but I just don't wanna forget this. Later, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take it over to our ironing board, and we're gonna fold this top part to meet the little line, okay? And that is gonna play a very important role. And boy, that just makes it so much easier when you have a line, rather than taking a little measuring something and making sure you come down exactly 1/2 inch. Okay, so we drew an inch line, and we're gonna take this down. That makes it an 1/2 inch fold over. Okay, so you're gonna be glad you did this at this stage of the game. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're working on our outside, our focal. Make sure your red line, or your line, mine happens to be red, is on the top. Be very careful where you put this, because our idea here is, do you remember on our last video, I talked to you about what's being seated? S-E-A-T-E-D, what's seated. So if you place your pockets in the right place and you sew your gussets in the right place, you make a really nice bottom, okay? And it just makes it, you know, really firm, and it just, you'll love it, okay? So if you haven't done that yet, you will really, really like it. So I have predetermined that this needs to be 3 inches from the bottom, so you just count up, or 2 inches from the bottom. I don't know why I'm getting the 3 in there, I'm so sorry. Exactly 2 inches from the bottom is where you set this. Okay. And this really will help you. Okay? Then you're going to take your pins, and you're going to do this on all, that's my husband, sorry about that. You're going to do this on all 4 pieces. Okay, 3 pins is plenty. Okay. Then you're going to take all 4 of them to your sewing machine, and you're going to sew close to the bottom, okay, just to attach this. And after we get that done with that, then I'll show you where I would put some pockets. But that's the part that you get to be really, you know, creative with deciding, you know, where you want to make the pockets at. So go ahead and do the rest of these. Just sew real close to the bottom, a little less than 1/4 inch. All right. Okay, so I attached my pockets on the bottom, all 4 of them. And we're going to talk about where we want to put our seams to create our pockets. I sell most of these on my Etsy website, so I don't know what's going to go in other people's bags, so I make them very, very simple. So we're going to go over the simple, and then we're going to go over one just a little bit more custom. What I personally do is, for these 2 outside ones here, I just make a line in the very, very middle, a seam in the very, very middle. And I do 2 little tiny seams right next to each other, okay? So that gives them at least 5 inches for each pocket. So 5 inches, 5 inches, 5 inches, 5 inches. That's a lot of storage. Sometimes what I'll do too is on the inside ones, let's go to the inside here, I play a little tiny bit more, and what I'll do is I'll put a seam maybe 3 inches in, okay, coming down like this, and I'll double it, of course, and then halfway down, or let me show you the method of my madness here, okay. Most of us have small things like this, and you don't want a small pocket for it to go way deep down into, and then you can't get it out because your hand won't fit in there, okay. So what I do is I kind of set this down like this, and right there at the bottom of it is where I would put my small seam. So I would
make my little double line here, and then somewhere in here I start a new seam and I go this way a couple of times. And that, like I said, gives me a shallow pocket for my smaller things, okay? And a lot of times I'll do that on this side too, and then I'll divide up this pocket in here. So, not to make it complicated, but, you know, I do want to offer that short pocket on both of these, at least, you know, on one of the corners, or, and I don't want to do it here in the center because this is, you know, really good real estate. You want to leave that open for your larger things, your phone, your sunglasses, a notepad, you know, whatever they may have. So I save these little outside pieces for that area. So always remember your seam allowance, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and find the center of these by folding them in half and putting my little notch. And that's going to show me exactly where. Okay, just a little tiny bit. Never notch where your seam will go. You need that. Do that on all four here. Then I'm going to take my measuring stick, my measuring ruler, and I'm going to set that here and see if that is exactly where I want this particular one. I may want to move it over 2 inches, but I can use my notches to help me with that as well. And so this one is only, because if you have my seam, it's only going to be about 3 inches, and this will give, you know, quite a bit more. But anyway, do what you would like. But keep it simple if you're going to be making it for other people. But, you know, I would recommend including 2 somewhere on the inside or even the outside if you would like for your shorter lipsticks and things like that, okay? So have fun with that, and I will show you when I get done where I placed all of my seams. Well, I hope that worked out good for you. So on the front, the outside of my bag, I just have the 2 seams, okay, so should make about a 5-inch pocket, and on the inside I made it a little bit more versatile, if you will. So I have a couple of short pockets. You can see that this one has the line that goes that way, and maybe you can get 2 chapsticks in there or something along those lines. And this one isn't real wide, but there's some things that you can figure out. Maybe eyeglasses would go really well in that one, okay? So, and I just kind of mimicked that over here. So, as you can see, this makes 1, 2, 3, there's 6, 7, 8, 9, there's 10 pockets in this thing. Plus you're gonna have the middle, and you're gonna have the outside bag, so you're gonna have all the space in between the bag and the organizer. So, what I wanna do now is, we're going to take these over to the ironing board. We're going to turn each one of them over to meet the line. Don't glue, don't do anything, don't sew. All you're going to do is just make a nice little crease. And the reason why we're not going to glue or do anything is because we want it to come back up so that when we sew it, it's in the up position. It's not time for it to be laying down permanently. So I'm going to iron all 4 of them down, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so I did put the crease in all of them, and this part is very, very simple, so I'm not going to take you with me to the sewing machine, but you're going to put this together now. We're going to put right sides together. Make sure your corners are up, not down like this before you sew it, because you will end up seeing this crease in this raw edge if you do. So you're going to definitely want it up. We'll fold it in later. So line up your sides and pin it. Okay. We're going to sew all the way across the bottom and back up. Now, the difference with this is, okay, I'm going to set that one aside. You would think, because we're going to do the same thing here, you would think that we would leave a part open, excuse me, for the bottom.
but not with this design. Okay, so do exactly what we did with the focal, is go ahead and pin it. Make sure this is up, by the way, okay? We want that up. And go all the way around, so all the way around. And I'm going to show you something really, really cool, okay? I'll see you back here. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my rotary cutter, and I like to clean up my edges. I don't want a really big seam over here because it just doesn't make it fit really well. So be careful not to cut into your seam, but you do want to cut away as much as you can without getting too close to your seam. Okay, so I'm just going to take this like that, and it's still left, a little less than 1/4 of an inch, or even just a tiny bit less than less. Okay, so this must seem strange that we even sewed all the way across the bottom of our liner. That's not what we usually do, huh? But this is really cool, and I actually do this technique with purses too, so it's not just exclusive to the organizer, okay? So, and I'm going to do that in a second with my liner, but what you're going to do now is you're going to reach in and use your pointed finger, poke the corner, okay, just like that, and pinch the whole thing. I want you to look inside the bag and make sure that this seam and this seam are lined up. You might need to adjust it just a little tiny bit. Mine's lined up really nice from this view. And I'm going to pop in a pin above where you see the seam line here. Okay, see the bottom where we attach the pocket. Then I want you to take this and feel where you put, these should have been even, so I was off a little bit on this one, but it's really going to be okay. But I want you to use this one then. And I want you to feel where you sewed on your pocket, and just fold that up like that and give it a really good fingerprint press so that you gave it a crease. Okay? And then that is where we're going to sew it across. So we're going to do that on the same side. You put your pointy finger right there in the corner. Look inside the bag and make sure that this seam and that seam are lined up. You might have to really get in some good light so that you can see in there. Pinch them. Feel with your finger where the edge of the pocket is. You can score it, and then just fold it and give it a really good finger press. And boy, I can see that line is really good. Go ahead and mark it if you would like. I don't need to because I scored it really good with my nail, okay? Do the same exact thing with this one. Remember, we're going to cut around the edges. We're going to put our finger in there, and we're going to make sure those match up, okay? So do the exact same thing with this one that you did with that one. After you do that, go ahead and sew on your line that you either drew or you scored with your nail, okay? And then you folded it like that. Once you get done with that, make sure you sew below this line though. I mean, it might be really, really close, so you might come down just a little tiny bit, but just make sure you left enough room so that you can make a small seam there. And what that does is that helps you give a seated bottom to your bag, okay? So if your line is a little low, you're going to score just a little below that so that you have room to sew, okay? Finished that part, went really well. It showed me that I could be a little bit more precise though when I'm laying my pocket on the focal fabric, that I really need to make sure when I came up the 2 inches that the bottom seam was exactly right on both of them. It was off just a little bit, but not enough to, you know, make it a problem. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the one right side out.
It's really pretty when it's seated. It really makes a very nice, very, very nice bottom to the bag. Okay. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is just take the sides and fold them over. This is why I was telling you you're going to be very happy that you pre-ironed this before. It really helps with that process, okay? And the liner piece, we get to just drop that in, okay? So that's what I've nicknamed this. I've never, seen it be done or heard it be talked about, but I just kind of nicknamed it a drop-in liner. It just seems to fit. So I'm going to fold that one over as well. Okay. And I simply just drop it in. And because they were made exactly the same size, they feel at first like they don't, really fit. So I just take my fingers like this and I just reach in the corners and I push the liner down as deep as I can in the corners on both sides. And stretch this across like that. Again, I always have to, fight with each one of them, but they always seem to work out absolutely beautifully. Okay, so at this point now, you just go to your, the sides, and you line up your two seams, like this, and you're going to put in a pin. You can also make your lining come up just a little tiny bit, so that it's seen, but for this one, it really doesn't matter. It's not really enough to make it really high, or like on this one, I purposely made it come up just a little bit because for whatever reason it was just a little bit taller, so I didn't fight with it. Okay, and on this one I made it be even with the top. So however it starts to play out, I wouldn't fight it too much, okay? So I'm just going to go all the way around and stretch this up a little bit to meet it. Excuse me. When I get to the middle here, this is where I want to put in my little tabs, okay? So we talked about how these are made with just very much like a strap, and then I just folded it and just let them meet together, and I just, sewed it a little bit. Isn't that cute? It just kind of made that fun top, and I'm going to center it right about here before I pin it, and I will pin it into my seam so that when I sew it I will catch it. Okay, so go ahead and pin this all the way around, and then you can watch me sew mine on. I wanted to make sure that you saw how I made this little strap that you can pick it up by. Okay, so I just took it and I folded it like a little horseshoe. I joined the two ends and crossed them over just a little tiny bit. Okay, now I'm just going to take it over to my machine and kind of tack that. I need the pen. I want to use the inside color to do my sewing around the top. I just don't want to risk that if I'm not even with my stitching, that the red was going to really show on this light gray. So, okay, so I finished my second little tab, and I'm going to put that here in the middle. Make sure it's even. This plate off. set this on here and just don't force anything, okay? You've got pins in there and they sometimes get caught underneath. You don't want to force that, okay? So I'm going to come down about 1/8 of an inch. I like to use a longer stitch, about a 3.5, and go around really, really slow, going forward and back, and then continue all the way around, very slow, watching my pins. I don't like to sew over my pins. Give it a little turn. Don't be afraid to smush it down. It's fabric, it'll bounce back. Sometimes your liner will be a little bit bigger than the outside focal fabric, or even the other way around. When you're putting the bag together and you're trying to make it fit before you start to sew, if you need to, go ahead and pull it out and sew up the sides of the ones that you think are a little bit bigger, just a little bit at a time. And that just takes a lot of practice and time to figure out that that's what you need to do to make it look really nice, okay? Especially something like this that's going to be all the way open and you're going to see the inside of your organizer. So you want that to have a really, really good fit. Sometimes I have really good fits and other times I just, you wonder why you even bothered. But the longer you do this, the less you'll have of those times. You'll get better and better with each one, I guarantee you. Just stick with it. They're fun, they're easy, and they make amazing gifts. To pucker a little bit, and if it's going to pucker anywhere, I want it to be here on the side seam rather than the very front of it. So I'm going to go ahead and not fight that and just let it pucker just a little bit. It's small, it's not really noticeable. Nothing to sew up on the inside because this was a drop-in style. The more you do them, the more you will enjoy them. They're really a lot of fun. Okay. So there you go. There's your new organizer. Didn't that come out really nice? I hope you had a good result, and I hope you had a lot of fun doing this today. So till next time, make it a great day.